everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I know you all know I get extremely excited about these Q&As, but one of the things in life that makes me happy is learning. I mean, every day, if I could learn, that would be awesome. Today, we are going to be learning some really amazing things. I actually have Dr. Stephanie Christensen from Comprehensive Cancer Centers with me. She's a board certified hematologist and an oncology doctor. She does do all cancers, but I know she is a good connection and friend to breast cancer treatment. So I'm very excited to have you with us today. Good afternoon, Dr. Christensen.
Hi, how are you?
Apparently I need a little more coffee. What it comes down to. I am really, really excited to have you. We actually started a conversation on Saturday at the walk about clinical trials, and you really got me thinking. And this is our second conversation with Comprehensive Cancer Centers about clinical trials, but I wanted to talk specifically about breast cancer trials. And I know that you are the doctor to connect with on those, correct?
Yeah, one of them, but yes, absolutely.
So that's actually, let's start there. Again, I know this question has been answered, but I just want to fully understand. There is you guys are, I'm going to say you're in charge of the trial, right? So it's run through you and somebody else is instituting it. Obviously, it's a medical procedure or drug, or it can be any one of those things, correct?
Yeah, I mean, well, to take a step back in medicine, we're constantly studying everything. So whether it's a surgical procedure or a medicine or drug, like you said, or a follow-up mechanism, as you're constantly being studied. Comprehensive cancer, in large part, most of our trials are drug-based. I think we've got a couple others that occasionally deal with some radiation or some other technologies, but in large part, we mostly do drug trials.
Wow. See, this is I think that part of it is that it's so big, right? There's so many moving parts that sometimes it's hard to connect. And I guess I never really realized how important clinical trials were.
It's how we learn. It's how we figure out how to treat people. You know, it's like if you don't study it, you don't know if it works. And there's a lot of things in medicine seem like they should work, and then you study it and it turns out it doesn't. Or it turns out it works better than what you have been doing. And so that's the only way to push the ball forward.
And both of those things do happen, right? I mean, things do come out better than you expected, worse than you expected, or what you expected, correct? I mean, all of that happens.
Yes, all of the above. Yeah, all of the above.
Have you guys ever, so that you are in one trial right now. What trial is it that you are in the middle? Are you in the middle of doing it?
Comprehensive Cancer currently has, over 100 trials open. I have a special interest in breast, so I'm largely involved in our breast trials. I'm currently the primary investigator on I think 4 or 5 trials right now. So there's multiple. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you can't join a trial in the middle, can you? Or is that something you can do?
So generally when these studies are created, it's almost like a contract where they kind of set out they tell you in advance, how many people are we going to enroll in this trial? How long are we going to follow them for? And they have inclusion and exclusion criteria. So, for instance, if it's a breast cancer trial, you have to have breast cancer, but they dictate kind of when you can start enrollment and how long they're going to enroll for. So there will be people that have been enrolled on a trial for 1 or 2 years, and they'll still be enrolling new patients because the window for enrollment stays open. So usually the period for enrollment is open for a couple of years until they fill the preset time period or the preset number of patients that they're trying to get onto the trial.
Oh, so funny. You know what? And I guess this is an uneducated look at it. I thought the clinical trial had to be filled in 1 week.
Oh, no. It'd be nice if we could do research that fast, but research is a really, really slow process.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So most clinical trials, and in particular, let's talk about the 4 that you're dealing with. They're not 10 days long.
No, so usually the follow-up is years, and it depends on what the study's trying. I mean, like, you know, if you think about COVID right now and they're trying to figure out, do these drugs work? Those are going to be really short studies.
Yeah.
But for cancer, what we're trying to prove is does this drug or does this, you know, modality make you live longer? Or does it prevent your disease from occurring? We call that disease-free recurrence or disease-free survival. And in breast cancer, often, even in the metastatic setting, stage 4 setting, women live for years and years and years. So these studies have to stay open for a long time to prove the benefit. And so it can take years to show one group did better than a different group.
Oh, interesting. See, something I did not know. So actually, I'm sorry, I'm being attacked by my cat hair. You know, it's so funny doing these from home. It's a whole other ball of wax, is what I've learned. So let me ask you this, and I may not be asking this correctly, so give me a little leeway here. Is there, like, of the studies that you've done recently, or that you're actually in the process of doing as they apply to breast cancer, is there one that stands out to you as something that is down the road going to be successful?
Yeah, you know, so yeah, so you know, if I didn't believe in what the study was trying to look at, like if I didn't think it had a chance of being successful, you know, we wouldn't sign up for it, because we only want to put our patients on things that we actually think they could benefit from. But like we were saying earlier, it's not a certainty. So there are things that make sense in medicine that may not play out once you're studied, and that's why we have to study it. So generally, right now, what I have open is it's sort of a combination of studies in the metastatic setting. So these are studies to prolong life of people with stage 4 disease. And then I have 2 studies in the adjuvant setting. And those are studies that we're trying to say, okay, you've got curable breast cancer. Is there anything we can do to treatment up front to make it more likely that you'll be cured, to make it more likely that your cancer won't come back? Does that make sense?
I got it. Yeah, so you get to evaluate these studies on the very front end and be like, no, there's no way I want to be a part of that one, or absolutely this one looks like something we definitely want to be involved in.
Yeah, so we've got a research committee at Comprehensive Cancer, which there's many of our practicing physicians are involved in, and if we get a study that's interesting, you know, it goes in front of the committee, and one of the committee members will present it to the group, and it kind of gets voted up or down, saying, yeah, this is worthwhile, or no, we shouldn't waste, you know, our time getting involved in this one.
Okay.
And so no one would take a study that they didn't think had some possible clinical benefit to the group, because it would probably get voted down pretty quickly, you know?
Yeah. So, okay, so then you would know in advance. You may not know exactly what the committee will approve, but typically you guys, I'm assuming, are into a routine and they trust your judgment as well, because you're an expert in this field. You can know like a month out or 2 months out what's coming down the pike.
Yeah, so yeah, like going back to research being a slow process, very often you hear about these studies, we present them and get them approved at the research committee, and they don't even get open for a couple months. It takes a long time to you know, get the trial up and going in Las Vegas once we actually, you know, agree to commit to the trial.
Right. So as a patient, right? So somebody who's, let's say, newly diagnosed with breast cancer, can they? I'm a phone caller because I'm older, right? Like I'm not necessarily a let's search the internet scenario girl. I mean, I pick up the phone and be like, hey, what do you got going on? Is there a way for them to go, hey, I want to see if there's a clinical trial that I can get connected to?
Oh, absolutely. So, you know, you can call our practice, and the new patient coordinators can talk to our research staff and try to get people lined up. There's, like, you know, that happened to me last year where a woman was seen by an oncologist not involved in our practice in Las Vegas. And she went to UCLA, to California, for a second opinion. And while she was at UCLA, they said, we think you should be on the study. We have the study open, but there's no reason you need to sign up with us. They have it open in Las Vegas. So she ended up like switching practices and came into our practice so she could enroll in the clinical trial.
Right. You know, what's interesting is I'm gonna confess to something I shouldn't be confessing, but I do now that we are in this home pandemic situation. I've taken to watching the Today Show when I get up in the morning. And actually, today they did have another. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, as we know, and they had a woman that had really advocated for herself and got her doctor to do some cutting edge breast cancer surgery or something. I admit it, I did not hear what it was, but it just made me think about how we really each individually have to take a vested interest in our healthcare.
Yeah. Oh,
and
absolutely.
investigate these opportunities or possibilities. And just the idea of being able to sit down with, or on the phone or whatever, with someone who's kind of aware of what's happening in breast cancer research is a great idea, even if you're not in the practice at that moment, right? Like, find the expert, find the person that can help you.
That's why I think it's important you're doing stuff like this, and you know, the advocacy you did during the walk is letting people know, letting people locally know that there are clinical trials going on that in Las Vegas that they can be a part of, that they don't need to go to California or out of state to get involved in clinical research, that we actually have a lot of clinical studies open locally.
I think that one of the things, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, some people hear the term clinical trial and think not proven, like it's a whim, and but really these are so specifically followed, right? And there's a lot of documentation. And
Yeah, so within clinical research, there's largely kind of phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And we're actually doing all three in my group. Phase 1 often is to look at safety. So you're trying to figure out what's the right dose and is the medicine safe. And then and really once you get to phase 2 and phase 3, it's already been proven to be safe. And now you're trying to study, does it work? And if it works, is the benefit, is it worthwhile given the possible toxicity, I guess.
Mhm.
And so generally, at least the studies I have open, on a phase 2 and phase 3, the drugs have proven to be safe. Now we're just trying to see if they're effective.
Mhm.
You know, so I hear a lot from patients, I don't want to be a guinea pig, or am I a guinea pig? And the answer is, we are doing research. So we are potentially subjecting you to something that, we're studying, so we can't say that there's not going to be a toxicity that we didn't anticipate, or there's not going to be some harm. We can't promise a benefit. But what we're hoping, and why we're doing the studies, is we're hoping that the new agent that we're using is both safe and effective, and that's why we're studying.
And monitoring, like, you don't leave
Oh,
people hanging out to dry. You're there the whole time,
yeah.
correct?
Oh, very, very closely. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually when people agree to be on trial, we are always very excited, but and we're very, very grateful for what they're doing, because it's a big commitment on their part, because we monitor so closely. It's more lab value. You're getting lab checked more frequently. Potentially, you're checking your heart more frequently. You're seeing me more frequently, and so it's a big commitment on the patient's part, because we watch this for safety standards so closely.
Right. But see, to me, that is the key, right? I love the idea. If I were going to be in a clinical trial, I'd want your phone number, right? I'd be like, hello? Not your personal phone number, but your office number, right?
And actually, that's one of the ways I talk to people about it. I say, we've got a whole research team that's committed to getting you through this. So the nice thing is you have multiple people that you can talk to, that are all committed to your success and getting on the trial, and so you actually kind of have almost extra care once you're on these trials.
Which, you know what, that's just peace of mind, really. I think. I just, it's such a big thing to undertake, like you said. So that's why I love the idea that, you're not in it alone. You're not going to be left on your own. So what do you actually, I don't know if this is a legal question. I realize there's legal ramifications. Do you actually have a breast cancer trial open right now that people can?
Yeah. So right now, we've got multiple open. There's the two that I'm most excited about right now, we call it the adjuvant or the curable setting, that we're actively enrolling. One we've had open for a little over a year. It's called Natalie, and it's looking at women who have hormone receptor positive breast cancer.
Okay.
So HER2 negative, hormone receptor positive. And what it's trying to do is determine if the addition of a drug called ribociclib, taken for 3 years, makes it less likely that their cancer will come back.
Oh.
Now, going back to safety, ribociclib is a drug that's actually already FDA approved in the stage 4 setting. So in the non-curative, in the metastatic setting, ribociclib is approved. And we know in the stage 4 setting, if you combine ribociclib with a aromatase inhibitor, which is sort of a standard in stage 4 breast cancer, it's been shown to improve something called progression progression-free survival and now even overall survival. So the combination of those two drugs works better in the stage 4 setting. So what the researchers are trying to do on NATALEE is saying, if it works so good in stage 4, what if we gave it to patients sooner? So what if we got it when there still has a chance of being cured? So a lot of these patients are going to go on aromatase inhibitors anyway. And so you would get your standard of care, and then 50% of the people would get ribociclib 2, and they would take that for a total of 3 years.
Okay.
And they'll be followed for a long, long time. And the hope is that we'll see that the group that takes both does better, and that would become a new standard of care. That would kind of change the parameters. So if you had, stage 3 breast cancer, now instead of just taking an aromatase inhibitor, you take an aromatase inhibitor and ribociclib.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I mean, like, really, right? I'm like, normally I am not speechless. I'm Italian, we talk, but I think just processing the possibilities is overwhelming to me and gives me chills, really. And it almost makes me want to cry. But so I get that they all attack certain types of cancer. So that one trial is for a very specific type of breast cancer. Okay. And that's one of the ways you help determine if someone is eligible for the trial, right? Like,
yes,
all of these general requirements, and then I'm sure there's like very specific health requirements
exactly.
as well. So interesting enough, though, in a clinical trial, does someone have to be in perfect health other than the disease you're trying to fight?
So historically, the answer, unfortunately, to that is yes. And I think there's been more pressure on these trials to say, look, you can't just approve these drugs on a perfect patient population, because patients aren't perfect and patients are going to have comorbidities. So if you only study perfect people, it may not translate to the actual community that you need to treat.
Okay.
So I think there's been some pressure on the pharmaceutical community and on the people who design trials to soften the standards somewhat. So but there is still inclusion and exclusion criteria. So so sometimes there's age restrictions, sometimes there's restrictions on, do you have HIV or cirrhosis or other medical problems, each study's individualized. So each study has a long list of check yes or check no to kind of make sure you fit in the box. And then from a cancer standpoint, very often they want to treat certain stages. So right now we're only accepting stage 2 breast cancer, or only accepting stage 3 breast cancer, and so that's stuff that when I'm evaluating a patient, could be enrolled in the trial, all that stuff's important to figure out, is it a good fit?
Right. Which I do understand. I honestly do. But it's interesting coming from, thank God I don't have a lot of things wrong with me other than I forget to say things sometimes, or like I said, I blame coffee for that one. But I just noticed, like, I'm overweight, so I'm pre-diabetic. And I was like, those things affect your health. I imagine they affect your ability to overcome other major diseases as well. And so that's why I was just curious if, because you're right, my first thought was, if you're in perfect health other than cancer, which is horrible, obviously, you still have the ability to fight differently than other people.
Yeah. So, but the study NATALEE I was just referring to, that the inclusion isn't so tight. So it's so like we as a practice have been able to enroll, I think, 19 people on the study, which we're very proud of. And so we are getting patients on the study. So I don't want people think it's a small box that they have to, they have to be medically perfect.
Well, who is medically perfect in the big scheme of things, right? Even if you're healthy, it is what it is. We're human. So
if you are, it won't be for long.
Yeah, right. So NATALEE is open. Is there something coming up that's going to be open in the next year? Do you know of, or?
Well, so we opened another study last week, which I'm really excited about too. And it's from the NSABP, and it's another study looking at curative breast cancer. So these are women who have stage 1, 2, or 3 breast cancer, and this is triple negative breast cancer. So this is women who are hormone receptor and HER2 negative breast cancer, and these women, a lot of times we like to treat them with chemotherapy before they go to surgery. And there's some valuable information that can be gained by treating them before they go to surgery. And what it is we want to know how sensitive to the chemotherapy is the tumor. So if you've got a 3-centimeter tumor in the breast and then you go to surgery and they get in there and there's no cancer left, you know that tumor was very sensitive to chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's valuable information for a couple of reasons. Is it has some prognostic significance, meaning we know that if you have a good response to chemotherapy, the chance that your cancer comes back is lower. So we know that those women do better. And because we know that women whose tumors don't shrink enough have a worse outcome. We actually have the ability to treat them with some more chemotherapy after surgery. So there's some important reasons to do chemotherapy up front. So the study that I'm opening, or we have opened, is it's looking at traditional, we call it neoadjuvant chemotherapy. So traditional chemotherapy prior to surgery, with the addition of a new agent, and this new agent is immunotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
And immunotherapy is one of kind of the hot new topic in cancer.
Yep.
And we're trying to use it in a number of diseases. And so what these researchers are looking for is if we give you traditional chemotherapy plus immunotherapy, are you more likely to have a complete response? And does that complete response translate into better outcomes long term? And there's some preliminary data showing that probably does make a difference. So the cool thing about this study is if right now you can't get immunotherapy at all in the curative setting in breast cancer, and even for very specific reasons in the metastatic setting. Mm-hmm. So if we can get patients on this trial, we're exposing them to immunotherapy very, very early, and the hope is by exposing them to immunotherapy very early, it's going to translate into improved outcomes down the road.
It's amazing. It's amazing what we're able to figure out. And it comes so far. We have some ways to go, but we've come so far. And
yeah, it's crazy to think. I actually looked this up the other day. So I graduated from fellowship in 2015, which doesn't sound like that long ago, but that was the first year that immunotherapy was approved for any drug, and now we're using it in lung cancer, non-small cell and small cell. We're using it in melanoma, we're using it in kidney cancer, and the list, sometimes in colon cancer, now in breast cancer, and the list goes on. And that didn't even exist when I was in fellowship, only a clinical study. So it is great. And I think, but we can constantly do more. And that's why we're so excited about research and trying to improve.
Although I still want to revel in the fact that we've gotten this far, which is, we need to continue, obviously. I'm not saying that, but I'm like, we're getting there. It's not like, it's none of us, and especially you guys, are not resting on our laurels. It's all about moving forward, right? And right now, I'm working towards ending breast cancer forever. And I'm that girl, I have a goal and I'm going to make it happen, right? So, but my father passed away of colon cancer. I am not a fan. So I love that I can sit and talk to people like you and just find out how far we've come. And that just, in that short amount of time is amazing. So imagine what we can do in the next section of time.
And that's what I talk to my patients with stage 4 cancer about that a lot. I say, if we can keep you alive, 3-5 years, there's going to be probably some new drug that can keep you alive, hopefully another year. And then maybe there's another one. And the goal is trying to turn this metastatic breast cancer into a chronic disease where you've got to be on some medicine, you've got to be under the care of a doctor, but you're living, you have a job, you're taking care of your family. You're not in a hospital bed sick on your last, days.
Exactly. And we have some, we call them forever thrivers, which are metastatic breast cancer patients in our group, and they are doing amazing, amazing things, like living their full life. And so, there's a balance, right? Maybe we can control it, and that's what we want to do. If I can't get rid of it forever, let's control it, keep it down, and reduce the number of people that it takes from us. That's my plan.
Absolutely. Yep. Totally agree.
I love that you guys are so active in doing that. And what's so interesting to me is how we just don't realize it. Like, we don't realize necessarily what's happening right here in our own backyard. So I cannot tell you how thankful I am you're willing to take the time to talk to us about.
Well, and thank you for your advocacy and telling people, because I think there are a lot of people who don't know that how much is out there just locally.
Yeah. If I don't know, and this is what I do for a living, right? I mean, I can't imagine. That's why I'm just like, it's gonna be good. Our goal is to just get the word out and inform people, absolutely, and then help people get connected, which is why I'm always asking, so they can call you and ask you. Like, I am not advocating leaving your current doctor. I'm not like, leave your doctor. What I'm saying is investigate your options.
Yeah, and there are websites for those people who are more tech savvy. You know, you
Yes.
could go on and you can go on and you know they're you can look by disease and it will show you what's open and where it's open and so if you are at a different practice and you're interested and you're curious, you can see you can kind of get but by disease you can look and see what's open and always call and see is this still open? Are you enrolling? Am I a good candidate?
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a strange question now because I do know the answer, but I want you to articulate it to us. Is as a doctor, and as what appears to be a pretty good doctor, Dr. Christensen, you feel good about clinical trials for the most part.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we'd still be using leeches to bleed people without,
Yeah.
advances in medicine. So yeah, it's the only way you can prove, does something work? Does it not work? And is it safe? So
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's just a lot of people, like me included, I'm going to admit it. Like, again, like I said earlier, like you hear the term and a lot of it is what we hear on TV, right? Or like what we see in movies or whatever. And I'm like, I think such a non-educated view of clinical trials. And I'm willing to say that. And I like to pretend I'm a smart person. So I'm like, I get that it's hard. It's easy to educate yourself on these things though, right? I mean, there is research that you can do as a patient. Talk to your doctor, talk to somebody else's doctor. We actually have, Susan G. Komen has a clinical trial helpline. You can call our clinical trial helpline and we'll talk to you about the fact that clinical trials are good and can help.
So no, that's valuable information because I actually didn't even know that. So that's actually very valuable information. Yeah.
Yeah, surprise. So, it's funny. I called our helpline the other day just to see what it was like. So I like to test things out. I don't send people to places that I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So it's like you in clinical trials. And that's why I want to make clear that if you are afraid, it's okay. You can say no to being in a clinical trial if you choose to as a patient, but it doesn't hurt to investigate what is happening in the area of clinical trials.
Absolutely. And, and even in trial, I think it's probably worthwhile to point out that you don't always get the study drug. So the only way to show that the drug works is you need a comparison arm, which is the control. And the control is usually standard of care, meaning you're not going to be treated less than you would. It's just you'd be treated like the normal way, how we treat people off trial versus standard of care plus. And so when you agree to be on a trial, there's a chance that you could just get standard of care.
Right.
Sometimes people are disappointed by that. Some people are relieved. It just kind of depends on, what you're looking for. But I always tell people the benefit of doing that, even if you get the standard of care, you gotta think like you're helping the breast cancer community that's going to come after you. So people that get cancer 5 years and 10 years from now, they're going to learn from the effort that people put in by donating their time and their bodies, if you will, to be in these trials. So it's like, it's a way of a patient can get back to the community and help those that come after them.
Never even thought of that. Like, honestly, didn't even cross my mind today. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Wow. See, again, learned something new. Yay. Honest. Okay, now I said I would keep you for 30 minutes and I'm 4 minutes over. But I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this. I feel that we're going to get a lot of response on the clinical trial aspect, but you guys do have a website. People can just start out their research projects just by going to the website, correct?
Yeah, Comprehensive Cancers in Nevada. I don't know.
I'll put it on the link. I'll link it so you'll have it in there. But I just wanted to say, just take the first step, right? Take the first step and investigate what's out there. Absolutely. Again, you don't have to join. You don't have to register for a clinical trial. And yet, great to find out what's available to you out there. And on your website, because I know you just said, and I've thought about this, it's done by stages. Will it list like the general requirement for that trial so they'll know?
Well, I think at our website, I think it's just sort of there's just access to our research with a number.
Okay.
And NIH and some various other people have like a database online that you can research that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So we're back to my favorite way to communicate, which is to pick up the phone. Love it. Oh, look at us. We're doing a Zoom call, right? So I'm getting there. I love it. All right, Dr. Christensen, again, thank you so much. More than likely, just so you're prepared, we will be having you back again because I do enjoy chatting with you and just learning like amazing things.
Well, thank you for doing this. I think it's a great project that you've undertaken. It's great. It's great.
Oh, thank you. All right, thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye.